Good morning. Hello, Trinity Tigers. Welcome to the Tiger Enrichment Live Webinar Series. I'm Hugh Doshbach, class of 1995, and your new Director of Alumni Relations. It's my pleasure today to introduce President Danny Anderson as he shares his thoughts on the university in the second year of his presidency. Dr. Anderson leads Trinity University as our 19th president. He assumed the presidency in May of 2015 after serving as a faculty member, administrator, and dean at the University of Kansas. An award-winning educator, Dr. Anderson has firsthand experience integrating experiential learning into his classroom and a deep appreciation for international awareness. He has received a number of awards and fellowships, including the ING Award for Teaching Excellence, a W.T. Kemper Fellowship for Teaching Excellence, and a National Endowment for the Humanities Fellowship for University Teachers. Dr. Anderson received a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish at Austin College and a Master's and Doctorate in Spanish at the University of Kansas. President Anderson is working to ensure that Trinity is recognized as a model of 21st century liberal arts education. Through the discovery that occurs in the Trinity classroom, students grow and become the kind of leaders our world needs today. An engaged community and higher education leader, Dr. Anderson serves on the board of directors of the Independent Colleges and Universities of Texas, the World Affairs Council of San Antonio, the P16 Plus Council of Greater Bexar County, and the United Way of San Antonio. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations Higher Education Working Group, the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Anderson and his wife, Kimberly, a teacher, librarian, and community volunteer, are parents to 2 adult children. Please know today that you will be able to submit questions through the Q&A button located towards the bottom of your screen as you listen to Dr. Anderson, and he will be happy to answer those questions following the presentation. Since I know you've all finished your homework that was pre-assigned by President Anderson, I assume you'll be bursting with great ideas to add to the discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you President Danny Anderson.
So thank you all for joining us, and I want to begin first by welcoming Hugh Doshbach back. Hugh, it is great to have you back on campus and working with us.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
I think you'll have a good time. It is very interesting. We have done so much at Trinity, and even with a lot of leadership change, Hugh is stepping new into his role. You're going to see that we have tried not to miss a beat. We have new events and ways to connect with alumni. Coming up next month on April 8th, we're having our first National Trinity Alumni and Parents Conference. It will feature a series of classes without quizzes with some of your favorite Trinity faculty members. We will have some social and cultural events alongside. And so this would be one of the kind of things that we're going to call Trinity Together, TU-gether. This is going to be called On the Road Together. So, please think about joining us in April for this event. Kimberly and I have been at Trinity now for a little bit more than a year and a half. Every day, I am grateful for being a part of Trinity University. There are many things that I could describe. One of them that I don't cease to enjoy is walking into my office in the morning on the top of Skyline Hill and looking at the way the sun rises over downtown San Antonio to the south. It makes me feel immense gratitude when I think about the many individuals who contributed to make Trinity all that it is today. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve and lead at this incredible university. We also enjoy being a part of the community. We participate in different activities. There's incredible dining. San Antonio is a true foodie city. And if you like Tex-Mex and Mexican food, it is off the charts in terms of things that you can enjoy. So in every sense, I would say I really feel like I have had a chance to put down roots. And as I move in, I want to share a PowerPoint slide and focus really specifically on things that we have going on at the university. One of the themes that I'll talk about is connection. And it is great as I think about our alumni and how connected we are. Just to give you an overall sense, we have about 31,000 alumni. You can see that more than 7,000 live in San Antonio. We have almost 500 who are living abroad. And I love this last point as you think about connections. About 95% say that attending Trinity was a good decision. I think that all of this is a great starting point for me as I think about ways that I want to be connected with our alumni and know that the stories of our alumni are the things that really build the reputation of the university. One of the ways that I have enjoyed getting to talk about, my pointer isn't moving, is by looking at the businesses that they've created in San Antonio. I'm not going to read the whole list here, but just as you look down that, Silver Ventures, that is the organization that's behind the development of the Pearl. And we all go into the Pearl if you live here in San Antonio. Mallett's Construction that you see, the top corner there, that is the group that is helping us with the renovation of the Bell Center, which is well underway, will be completed within months. And I know that everyone who's listening probably has spent some hours, if not more time, at Bombay Bicycle Club, also a business by one of our alumni. On the next slide, I was just wanting to expand this reach a little more broadly. We have so many Trinity alumni who either are founders of businesses or they are currently the leaders of businesses across the United States. As you look at this list, if you start at the top left, Human Rights First, this year we recognized Elisa Massimo as our Distinguished Alumna of the Year for her work with that organization. There in the middle, Centene Corporation is led by the chairman of our board of trustees, Michael Neidorf. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, I'm sure that many of you have enjoyed Kind Bars, a business created by our alumna, Daniel Lubetsky. And we could go through and talk about all of those, but just take a lot of pride as you think about the ways that Trinity alumni have an impact in creating businesses and opportunities across the country. One of the themes that I'm going to try and emphasize throughout my presentation today is the Trinity Network. You all came to Trinity and you're connected. You are part of a network that really keeps us strong. As we're recruiting new students in, we're helping them think about they are not simply making the choice to attend a school for 4 years and then be gone. They're making a choice to become a part of a very prestigious and distinguished network. And I hope that you take pride in everything that you think about Trinity as you move through, as I move through this presentation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the video, which I hope that you watched. Some of the things as I move into this comment is just think about our network. When you think about our reputation for what we accomplish as a university, the stories all exemplify that the Trinity Network really does a great thing. We're looking at a world that is changing. We're looking at Trinity alumni who will move out into jobs that some of them do not yet exist. They don't have titles. Just think about a few years ago when sport management wasn't exactly the field that it is and how analytics did not enter into thinking about that field the way that they do today. We also are looking at ways that the core, the heart of what we do in terms of liberal arts and sciences help our alumni be broadly prepared to address complex situations with creative approaches and to think about how they will use that as they strive to live a meaningful life of engagement with our world. I started my Trinity journey. The very first event that I attended was an MLK Jr. March, and my presidency had just been announced. This year would be my third March. There have been 2 of them since I've served officially as president. One of the things I like about this event is that it shows the community connecting together. This year we had 5 buses packed with Trinity students, faculty, staff, and alumni to go and participate in the MLK March in San Antonio. As you think about that kind of connection and community, that's the kind of thing I want you to recall as you think about the video that I asked you to watch. It began with the story of Joe Donnelly. Joe graduated from Trinity a few years back, and I love the way that in his testimony, he talks about his pay it forward philosophy. Someone who was working with the Spurs helped him get an internship. And now he works with that organization and he looks for opportunities to create internships. One of the things that I truly enjoyed about that network is that last summer, I got invited by the Trinity network of Spurs employees to go to Bombay Bicycle Club for an afternoon to hear about their personal stories and all of the things that they enjoy doing and the ways that they support each other. There are a lot of ways that that is an interesting personal story that builds a lot of pride in terms of the role of the Spurs in San Antonio. But I think it's also important in other ways. Parents today, when I talk with them and they're thinking about sending their students to Trinity, are often thinking, what will my son or daughter, my student, do with a degree from Trinity? Having internship opportunities like Joe Donnelly helps create is one of the major things that we can do to help students start down the path toward their post-Trinity launch. Jeff Salingo is a higher ed writer. He has a book called There Is Life After College, and he argues that students who participate in out-of-classroom experiences like internships, study abroad, undergraduate research, tend to move much faster into a successful job launch. So we're working hard to grow the number of internship opportunities that really do prepare our students for a very competitive world. If you think about the second story in the video, Sherry Albright, also a Trinity alumna, she returned to work with us as a faculty member in education. And I love the way that her story talks about the way that we are seeking to use our talent to connect to the future of our country. Under her leadership, Trinity connects with San Antonio Independent School District, and we have created a model school. She talks about how, as we were looking at the most recent challenge, we needed people with special skills for helping launch that new school with true insight and creativity. And so she put out a call. She got Trinity alumni, current Trinity students from the pipeline to join the effort. And so right now we are working toward one of the most exciting experiments in San Antonio Independent School District, looking at a way to bring greater educational equality to some of the youngest students in our inner city, which is a truly critical need in San Antonio. You know, I talked about what was important about Joe's story because he is helping us with internships. I think Sherry is looking at another way that Trinity fills a very important need. If you look at the demographics in our country, there are dramatic changes that are underway, and she is helping us meet the future that is coming toward us very rapidly. Hispanics will become the majority of our population by the year 2050. Hispanic students graduate from high school at a rate of 73%, yet only 16% of Hispanic students earn a college degree. In a city like San Antonio, where about 60 to 65% of our population is Hispanic, this kind of disparity creates true urgency. We must ensure that these youngest students are not only college ready when they leave school, we want them to be world ready because they will become the citizens and the leaders that to take over the world that they inherit from us. We want them to be ready to solve many of the problems that they did not create. The third story, I think, is probably one of the ones that you may have found most moving. This is a story that really illustrates the way the Trinity experience serves to connect with the whole student. We strive to meet them where they have talents and where they have needs. Faith talks about Trinity as a truly challenging academic environment, but also as she found a remarkable network of support because she had to overcome unique personal obstacles related to her health. But she also has been able to excel as a scholar. We're really proud of her. She's inspiring because of the way that she can talk about her optimism in the face of some of those obstacles. And she has incredible humility as she expresses gratitude for her fellow classmates and her faculty and staff who really stood beside her when she needed them. When I think about this story, it makes me remember the Wall Street Journal ranking that came out this year. They looked at faculty based on their research qualities, their productivity, but then they also looked at what students said about how accessible those faculty members were to them. And they placed us 6th in the country for the best faculty, looking at those kinds of qualities. And I know that we have many different rankings and accolades that we can brag about, but that is one that when you think about the faculty members whom you know at Trinity, and you know how hard they work, that was one that meant something, that meant a great deal to the faculty member because it recognizes some of the things that they invest the most of their energy into. So as you think about her story and what is important about Trinity, the kind of things I'd like you to feel good bragging about on us, is that she talks about the way that we continue to look at the whole student when we think about the Trinity experience. We want our students to have the connections that make them confident, the connections that help them maintain their curiosity, and have the connections that help them become catalysts as they think about the role that they will play in the future. The other thing that I want you to think about is we are getting ready for accreditation. This is a process that happens every 10 years, and we always have to pick a special project that is looking at transforming the university. When we look at meeting the whole student the way we do faith, this is something that will infuse one of the projects we have for our accreditation that's called our Quality Enhancement Plan. We're developing a way to think about what can we do to be even more effective with our first-year students as they start at Trinity to help them start strong. One of the major pieces of research shows that the things that a student experiences during his or her first 4 weeks are likely to be the strongest predictors of things that they will accomplish over the next 4 years. And so we really want to ensure that all of our students start strong. As you think about this video and these 3 stories, I hope that they make you feel connected to many of the wonderful, very personal things that are happening at Trinity. As you stand back and think about what is the roadmap, one of the phrases that you used introducing me talked about my goal of looking at how do we help Trinity stand out as redefining liberal arts for the 21st century. I picked up that goal because I'm a really close reader, and that is a phrase that comes right out of our strategic plan. It is the vision that drives us in terms of looking at the kind of transformational experience we have for our students. If you're interested in knowing more about our strategic plan, during this year we have managed to create a website. You can look at strategicplan.trinity.edu. It has a couple of pages. One is objectives, another is foundations. These 4 columns that you can see on this screen align with the 4 major objectives that are driving the plan. One of them is looking at experiential learning. Another one is looking at the interdisciplinary connections on campus. Another one is looking at the ways that we want to optimize everything international at Trinity. And then the last one calls for us to be intentional about using the whole experience of being a residential campus. As I look at this and just sort of talk about it a little bit, one of the ways that we have lived into that plan, which is now it's in its 4th year, is creating a series of centers. We're trying to break down the separation between the academic affairs side of this and the student life side. And the centers are a place where these kinds of pieces come together. You're going to find student life components and academic affairs components in each of these centers. The Center for International Engagement, just to pick one to begin with, has really worked hard this past year to redefine our financial model for the way that we support study abroad. We have created a new way of what we will call the home school tuition model. Students will simply pay their tuition and fees to Trinity over all 4 years, and if they choose to go and study abroad during their junior year, we will work out an arrangement where we can pay for the academic year cost of their studying abroad with the funds that they have paid to Trinity. It helps us reduce some of the fees that we were already paying to some of the study abroad providers, and our goal is to use this model to increase from 40% to 60% in the near future the number of students at Trinity who have major study abroad experiences. If you look at the Student Success Center there in the lower part of the screen, this is a part of the university where we are expanding the ways that we serve the needs of students today. It includes a range of things such as a wellness center. It includes our counseling services. It also has a new student success office, the Tiger Learning Center, that really helps students think about challenging courses, some kind of time management strategies, and they help them be more successful. Overall, this is a course that has really been a huge boon to our first-year students, who are finding that many of our juniors and seniors hear about it, and they go seeking the support they can provide also. And then finally, looking at that Center for Experiential Learning and Career Success, we've tried to reorganize what was previously career services We've added new staff members, and we've combined it with an experiential learning center, which really helps us pull together the focus on internships. When you think about a student, they should not wait until the spring of their senior year to think about, okay, where is career services? We want them to start having connections throughout their time here, hopefully through internships and other ways that they can gain experiences so that when the time comes for them to launch and move beyond Trinity, they're well on the pathway. Another key feature of where we are right now is in year 2 of a new curriculum that was created by the faculty. It's called the Pathways Curriculum. Some of the features that you find on this screen is that right now we've overhauled 366 courses. That is a lot of effort from our faculty members. Even though it has many new features, it rests on a liberal arts and sciences foundation, looking at ways that we can strengthen the skills that we associate with liberal arts and sciences. We made some adjustments to majors and minors, trying to think about more ways to look at the experiential opportunities and the interdisciplinary opportunities. But especially one of the cornerstones of it is a first-year experience. Many of you probably had some kind of a first-year seminar or a first-year writing class. The first-year experience is a 6-credit-hour class that is taught by a team of faculty members who work with students. So it brings a true multidisciplinary focus on a single topic. And just one to give you an example is there's one that's called Creative Genius. We have faculty from a variety of disciplines with their own small group, all looking at creative genius, trying to look at creativity from Beethoven to Steve Jobs. It's really interesting to watch the projects from that class. I saw this last year that one of the students chose to compose a piano piece that was performed in a public exhibition as a demonstration of creativity for that first year experience. Going back, I mentioned, I'm going to flip back here because I can do it quickly. This is a strategic objectives. There are also 4 strategic foundations that we have that are looking at how can we, in our strategic plan, strengthen the operations of the university. I'm going to flip back forward here. One of those foundation actions calls for us to develop a campus master plan. And I am truly excited by this campus master plan. Our campus librarian, Diane Graves, has chaired a faculty and alumni and staff committee that has worked for more than a year and a half now on this phenomenal plan. They were given the charge to honor the legacy of an O'Neill Ford Skyline campus and think about how do we use our 117 acres as we move forward and think about the changing needs and ensuring that we're serving the future generations. So as I move through these next few slides, I want to talk about signature elements of this campus master plan. As you look at this image, what you see, if you could imagine that you're standing on Lower Campus, this does not exist yet in reality, say you're about in the parking lot in front of Mabee Hall. Imagine that we've turned that back to green space and that you're looking, you can see the tennis courts off to the left, you've got Murkison residence halls there to the right, and we've got a beautiful stair-step entry up to main campus. If you look at the diagram there on the right side of the screen, you can see a large green belt. One of the key concepts is that we want to emphasize a public space, a green, open, living learning corridor where we're trying to promote more open communal life. And I think that trying to reimagine how Lower Campus connects to Upper Campus in ways that we could reconfigure space to accomplish that goal could give you an idea about how much we could come together and be more connected by the ways that we use our space. One of the things that's hard to describe or show on this image, but I just want you to imagine because you all know where this is. Right now, if you were standing at this spot, you would turn to your right and you'd be looking at Mabee Hall. That building is perhaps outlived its purposes. We did an extensive dining survey and we're exploring the option of moving main dining back to the Coates Center, which would be right at the edge of Upper Campus. It used to be a true hub. It would pull people together for public life. And we're also exploring what would it take if we were to try and build a second story, a brand new multi-purpose room on top of that It would have a giant glass window looking at downtown San Antonio. You know, many people would use a traditional term and call it a kind of university ballroom. It would be the kind of a meeting room that could accommodate 500 people for a sit-down dinner or for a large event that we could have on campus. So it could be just a phenomenal way of continuing that theme of spaces that bring people together in community. Another signature feature of the plan is thinking about ways that we are going to be renovating key buildings. As you look here, you can see the Halsell Center building. You can also see Chapman Graduate Center. There's our football stadium. These are all different elements of our facilities that in their current state are not at the level of high quality that we have for many of our other wonderful facilities on campus. When I think about describing the vision of what I would like to accomplish here, if you have visited our campus and seen the CSI building, the Center for Science and Innovation, it is a space where when you look at it and look at the way that it invites you in, you think, wow, I would like to be there doing the kind of things that people are doing inside. You know, when you think about the humanities programs that are in Chapman and Halsell, think about all of the important programs we have, the departments in our School of Business. We want students who come to visit our campus to see these spaces and not see them as the oldest spaces on campus, but to have that same experience when they visit CSI and think, wow, this is where I want to go and study business. This is where I want to be doing humanities and working with faculty at Trinity. So these are truly the most crucial priorities as we think about the future of our campus. One of the things that we learned as we did the campus master plan is that it said we need to rethink our housing options. Right now we have all traditional residential life, and that it would be optimal for us to think about building some kind of apartment style living. We had looked at some of the open space just north of Laurie Auditorium, but then an opportunity came up and we were able to purchase the City Vista apartments. In a sense, this is a way that we just took a leap forward. This is an apartment complex that has about 140 units. It has about 300 parking spaces. That is about the size of both a parking garage and an apartment complex recommended. The cost of those units was about the same as this. So by having the opportunities to jump ahead, to leapfrog into our future and purchase this, we're both preserving some of the space on our main campus where we can still choose to do additional things. We have saved ourselves the psychic price of living through construction. And we also have a wonderful facility that expands that 117-acre footprint, gives us about 3 more, so we're now at 120 acres, which really does help us jump forward into some of the goals of our strategic plan. The next thing I'd like for you to think about, and this is one that many of you may not have imagined, if you think about Hildebrand, the northern boundary of our campus, if we were able to put in a new road running straight from the center of campus north down to the edge of Coates Library, that would be our campus gateway. It would be the main entrance that really connects us to the external city. This right here is a visual trying to imagine that you have seen that main entrance to Trinity that welcomed you. You've had a clear road that you could drive down. Probably on the left there's a clear parking lot for guests to visit campus. The building that you're seeing to the left would be a new welcome center where we could possibly have an alumni welcoming office. We might think about having our admissions office located there so that visiting prospective students would easily know where they want to start their visit. I just love this idea of thinking about, what would it be like if you get off of Highway 281, you're driving west on Hildebrand, you suddenly come to City Vista and see Trinity University on your right. You turn to the left and look and see the Trinity University signs. You drive a little bit further, there is the grand entrance that clearly lets you know you've arrived. Trinity is welcoming all of you back to campus or onto campus. I really do think this is a great feature of the campus master plan that could help us live into the future of being everything we want to be as a university. So up to now, I've talked about some of the connections that really excite me. You've heard some of the stories about our alumni. You've seen some of the features of our strategic plan and looked at some of the aspects here of our campus master plan. I want to give you a little bit of a different point of view about Trinity. You know, what are some of the things that keeps a university president up at night? So you might think about these as challenges. So the first challenge you might call communication challenge. Right now, our country, all of you, live in a context where we listen to a very polarized political rhetoric around us. As you think about anything that you see occurring outside campus, it also occurs on our campus. Many of you probably read about the challenging protests that occurred at Berkeley when Milo came to give a presentation. I hope that none of you are upset because we already had Milo here more than a year ago, and it was an event that went off without any kind of hitches. I think that the thing that we look at as we think about all of these different events is that we are a community that upholds free speech. We want to have open change of ideas and perspectives, and even when there may be a speaker whose purpose is to be controversial, we try to maintain that Trinity ethos of being welcoming, listening, thinking about things, and I think we have a very high level of intellectual analysis and debate about the pros and cons, the values of anything that we hear. And so we really are working hard in the current context of different conversations in our country to keep that kind of spirit of open conversation across different points of view, the value that guides us on campus. Another thing that I want you to think about is the sort of the economic, cultural, demographic disruptions that we're facing and how we rely on support to help us. This is a chart that is simply looking at the way that we think about and we report, for the sake of rankings, our alumni giving. If you look at the set of peer colleges, this is public data that shows how many alumni at these different schools give back and support their university. You can imagine we would like to be higher in this list. I just try and think about all of your competitive bones that you have, and being in Texas, you know, looking at Rice up there at 33% and Trinity being at 14.7%. You know, some of those numbers on the left-hand side are to try and help you think we're working hard to make the case that we would love for more of our alumni to show their commitment to the university by supporting us in different ways so that we could be among the more prestigious universities in terms of the kind of support shown from their alumni. To give you an idea, right now 14.7% means that we have about 3,500 alumni who are supporting us. If we wanted to be at 20% like Denison, we would need to have about 1,000 more alumni supporting us. That'd be 4,774. If we wanted to be like Claremont McKenna College, they've got about, that would take us to get 35%, 8,302 unique alumni each year supporting us. You know, so I look at that and think that those are great goals for us to have as we think about how do we share the Trinity story so that more alumni become engaged and want to help us. This is a different kind of behind-the-scenes business plan challenge that we face. You know, I look at how we set tuition. How do we talk about the endowment returns that we have? If you look at this very crowded graph, the kind of ways that I want you to be thinking about it is that this is a proxy for talking about how much resources we have per student and how that shapes the experience we are able to deliver, but also how it positions us around other universities that we compete with. If you zoom in a little bit on your screen, some of the kinds of things that you would notice is just to the left of us, you're going to see Texas Christian University, Southwestern University, Baylor University. They're close to us. If you look at the y-axis that goes up and down, that is talking about tuition and fees. You know, we are in the pack where we charge per student about the same amount as Texas Christian University, Southwestern, and Baylor. But if you look up higher, Southern Methodist University, Vassar College, Wesleyan University, Bard College, places of high name recognition that we would like to command, they are able to charge far more per student in tuition and fees than we are, and have their students willing to pay that. So that'd be one way that you think about how are we looking at resources, but also how are we comparing to some of our competitors. If you look at that x-axis on the bottom that runs horizontally, and you look out farther to the right, we're looking at places that are able to charge more in tuition, but they also have far more tuition dollars per student. Rice's endowment, I think, is about 4 or 5 times the size of Trinity's. Grinnell, as you go out farther, is about 13 times the size of Trinity's. It's interesting that these are universities that are not struggling to make the case to their alumni, even though they have significant endowments, that it is a worthy investment in the reputation of the university to keep supporting them as they're trying to keep the mission strong and invite some of the best students in. We are stronger, though, if you look at our endowment per student compared to Baylor, Southwestern, TCU, or up higher, Southern Methodist University. So, it means that we have a unique strength compared to some of our in-state peers, and yet we're still working to move forward. One of the things as you think about what we're able to accomplish, the amount of resources that we can provide per student determines the kind of Trinity experience we provide. So we work hard to optimize everything we do. We will face the challenge that everyone is facing as we raise tuition and fees. We're also facing the challenges of others as we look at the uncertainties of what will happen with endowment returns over the future. So this is just a kind of management snapshot of how do we think about the university and its position. And the last challenge that I'd share is just the thing that I've heard most from Trinity is that we want to be more recognized. There are many great schools. There are many schools in the United States that can talk about the wonderful student-teacher relationship they have. We work hard to talk about what distinguishes Trinity. We're telling that story in a context when many people have doubts about the value of college degrees or the value of liberal arts and sciences. Advertising alone is not enough to differentiate us. We are working hard to build more alignment internally to think about how do we get clear about who we think we are and how that holds together. So as I bring my comments to a close, I want to thank you for taking time to listen to my comments. I'd like for you to imagine all of the things that we can do together to ensure that Trinity truly remains a university of the first order, connected to San Antonio, thriving deep in the heart of Texas, and engaged with our nation and our world. Trinity has accomplished everything it has accomplished already because of your support and your involvement, and I am very grateful. I'm grateful every day for the kind of things that you do to help us move forward, to help our students have confidence, explore their curiosity, become the catalyst of change in our world. You are part of an elite network. You're proud of your alma mater. You stay connected to Trinity in many different ways through your shared experiences and your journeys. I hope you will look at the URLs at the bottom of the slide and think about more ways to be connected. You can follow us at strategicplan.trinity.edu on our website just to get updates about what's going on. I am posting all of my communications on a website that's president.trinity.edu. If you take time and explore marketing.trinity.edu, you'll find packages that can help you think about ways to be a good brand ambassador to talk about Trinity. And if you're on Twitter, you can follow me at TU_President19. I put a lot of energy into trying to publicize and promote many of the great things that are happening at Trinity. So you can take us back to camera now. I'm very excited to be here at Trinity. I am continuing my journey. One of the things that I end up thinking about is that I am the chief storyteller for Trinity University. I go out in the community and I try to connect with many different groups. It is the value of your stories that help me do everything that I do. So I invite you to please help me be effective by continuing to share your stories, things that happened at Trinity that really changed your lives, the kind of things that you have done to be catalysts of change because of the experience that you received from Trinity. And please share stories about ways that you continue to seek to strengthen your connections with us. It makes a difference in everything we do to elevate the prestige of the Trinity Network. So I want to thank you, and I hope people have been posting some questions on the Q&A that I could be to answer. Do I have questions, Hugh?
It looks like we do have, we just had one come in here from Mike Moyer. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Dr. Anderson, for sharing those great insights into where we are and where we're headed. Mike says, the value of a Trinity education is exceptional. I returned to the East Coast after graduation in 2000. And upon returning, people were starting to know about Trinity, i.e. not confuse it with Trinity College. However, over the following 17 years, Mike feels that the reputation has lagged and has now slipped to where it was before without much knowledge about the quality of a Trinity education. He'd like you to address what are your plans for strengthening and establishing a national reputation again, and how can he help?
So in terms of looking at national reputation, one of the things, if you follow our marketing, is that we're looking at what are ways to pick strategic locations to get greater national visibility. If you look at the data, this is maybe a little bit more of a complicated concept, but since the Great Recession, students do not travel as far from home as they used to go to college. As we look at competing for fewer students nationally, rather than doing shotgun advertising everywhere in the country, we really are very focused on thinking about where are the locations that we have to be known to be able to recruit more students, and then how do we leverage that as we're thinking about building larger prestige nationally. So that's just one side of it, but we have to be successful at recruiting students and connecting with the right out-of-state pipelines. So there may be things that you would think broadly, everyone knowing about things, whereas we're looking at really specific locations where we know we can do things that will move a specific needle. And we've got indication that that's working because our applications are up 40% over a couple of years ago. Our selectivity is going to a more selective rate. We expect this year will probably be about 35% in terms of selectivity given the quality of our applicant pool. But we're also working with our alumni networks trying to think about specific locations. And this has to do with picking alumni in specific professions in different cities to try and look at what are ways that we can help them become more visible in their network among their circles. We recently in Washington, D.C. hosted some events where we were trying to re-present an award to an alum in the network where that individual works. When a person comes to Trinity and they receive an award at Trinity among other Trinity graduates, that does not do as much as when we're able to go to the place where a person has made his or her impact and we have a reception there in the town where they live and try and pull people in. So we're using a variety of ways, thinking more about what is that informal network that people move in and how do we build upon knowledge in those networks that would be the more meaningful word of mouth for people to see what is the impact of a Trinity education. In terms of things that you could do specifically, being engaged with our Alumni Relations Office, helping us know where you are, things that you're doing. I'm still getting to know many different alumni, so I can't tell exactly what would be the right role for you. But recently we've done some wonderful events where we are connecting some of our alumni in New York with some of our students who are recent graduates to try and help use that process to both reconnect the alumni as a network itself in New York, but also connect them with campus, but then help them move out and talk in their professional circles about the ways that our students will be moving out into the world. It is a challenge that won't be an instant or overnight thing to do. It is interesting because it's a challenge that is very segregated by professions. I can be in a city where one alumni may say that people do not know Trinity in my spirit, and I can go to a building for another profession and find that everyone knows about Trinity in that city. So, we're really working to understand the dynamics of some of that reputation to be more effective at building it. I hope that helps you think about some of our efforts to address that.
Thank you. Here's one in from Tess Cootie. Tess says that San Antonio is rising on the national stage. How do you think that the city's prospects impact Trinity's brand as we work to create a transformational brand rather than a transactional one?
I think that the importance of San Antonio is phenomenal. And thank you for the question, Tess. When we are recruiting students, one of the things that we talk about in terms of why pick Trinity than another place is that students today are looking at a world where having the opportunity of being in a multicultural environment, being in a very urban setting where there are many ways to get off campus and be engaged with the city are things that parents and students are looking for as they pick a place to go to college. It really distinguishes us. The other thing is, with our strategic plan and new programs that we have launched, entrepreneurship has emerged as a real strength at Trinity. There's a wonderful entrepreneurial environment in our city. Just this past summer, we had a wonderful partnership called Students Plus Startups. There's this program where we had the 80/20 Foundation in San Antonio offering to pay half of the salary for a student to work in a startup, and then the startup company pays the other half. We had 14 students who were placed at opportunities like that. This year, we're looking at 40 students being placed at opportunities like that in the city of San Antonio. These are ways that we're trying to help students think about San Antonio as a possible destination for them to make their lives to work. But it's also a place where even if they are choosing to return to home, go another place, they're getting true engagement with a phenomenal city that is more like the cities of the future than anything else that we could be imagining. So being in San Antonio is a huge benefit for Trinity. Being a city of true transformation, and being a part of the transformational experiences at Trinity is a phenomenal thing that we leverage all the time as we're looking at inviting more students to think about why come to Trinity.
It's an exciting time to be in town.
Absolutely.
Alicia Jarrett says that, speaking of experiential learning, will the City Vista apartments be used as a way for students to experience life skills such as applying, meeting the criteria for a lease, paying rent on time, managing bills, i.e. water, electricity, etc., or will it be limited to upperclassmen? And then, other than internships and career experience, how else are you preparing students for the real world? So I guess we have some apartment and living issues first, and then some career ones next.
Yeah, so take the two questions first. One, City Vista is apartment living for upper class and graduate students. And to make it work for us in terms of managing all of that, we're not going to do monthly bill collection, monthly paying all the separate bills. It would be the experience of like living in Trinity University housing. The thing that will be different is if you want to cook, you're going to have a kitchen. You can buy your groceries rather than selecting a meal plan. There's a lot of independence in that. There will be a lot more freedom from supervision. We will have residence life staff on site. We owe it to our students to think about the kind of safety and environment we're going to have, but it will still be a part of Trinity University student living. We're not running an apartment complex as a separate business the way that a speculator might. For us to be a university, we still have to think about it. So we're looking at that process. It's true all throughout the student residential experience. At each step, students becoming more and more independent in some of the practices and choices. The second part of the question was looking at, besides experiential learning, help me remember this.
So other than internships and career experience, how else are we preparing students to launch out into the real world?
Yeah. I would say that the thing, if you look at the strategic plan and think about some of the philosophy behind it, internship is one way that you're looking at how does a person learn by doing. Experiential learning is the broader concept there. I would say in every discipline, we are posing the question, how do you identify some problem or some location where a student could take out of the classroom the thing they're studying and begin to see themselves as a person who is using that knowledge or that skill in the real world to practice that. I think that is something that is perhaps easier to imagine in the sciences. We have all kinds of opportunities where we're getting our students in the sciences to have independent laboratory research opportunities. The place where people may not imagine that is we have this wonderful new program called ALE, Arts, Letters, and Enterprise. And we have developed a new program where we've got a cohort of faculty mentors leading that. These would be students in arts and humanities who are getting orientation from our entrepreneurship program, and they're going out and they will be doing independent paid internships working in nonprofit organizations in the city of San Antonio. So you're very much looking at how are you preparing students to use humanities studies or an arts degree in a work environment, to think about how do you go out and use that. There are other things that we're doing in terms of different kinds of experiences. There might be even more focus groups, where Cheryl Tynes, as the Vice President for Student Life, is hosting a series of lunches for graduating seniors this year. And part of it is, trying to understand from a senior's point of view, what are we doing well? What can we do different? How are we supporting them? But a lot of that is trying to reinforce in a very personal and individual way the ways that we want students to use all of the Trinity resources available to them to help make that launch into the next phase of their life. So I think we're being intentional, looking at not just at the end of their career, but from sophomore year on, how do we think about getting students aware, informed, and actually using the many different things that we have will help them be prepared to move smoothly into their futures.
Right. Alicia, I hope that was a good earful there for sure. We have one more here from Richard Parker. This is a little open-ended, so you can maybe use this however you'd like. Richard says that many universities want to be exceptional. If you, Dr. Anderson, had to put your finger on the one thing that makes Trinity exceptional, what is that?
I can describe some things. The challenge is finding language that we can use to differentiate us. The thing that's really remarkable, and there are multiple pieces of evidence that describe it, we talk about the incredible relationship between faculty and students and how it is so deep. I think there is something that we do that is different and stronger than many places, but that is a kind of feature that many universities brag about. Many universities today are talking about entrepreneurship, but the other thing that we're working on is trying to find a way to, we're doing signals here that distract me a little bit. We're trying to find some ways to think about what is it that's unique about Trinity in terms of how all of our alumni who have a true depth in liberal arts and sciences have pragmatically gone out to use that. I end up thinking about describing Trinity as a comprehensive liberal arts and science university, which gets at the way that we do liberal arts and education and business and engineering science. Or I could think about pragmatic liberal arts and sciences, because we have students that discover all kinds of things in their curricula, but they end up all becoming that confident, curious catalyst, that they take that out and do something unique with it. I think that is, understanding better how did we come across that, how did that tradition get established, how can we help people, how can we help faculty and staff become more aligned and aware and use that as a value that we might use to strengthen or to make that even more purified in some form to differentiate us better, would be one thing to look at. It is one of the metaphors that I find that is very interesting is that if you look at higher ed, 98% of our DNA is shared with all universities. And the difficulty is how do you talk about that 2% that makes you different? And even when we start wrestling with language, we are fighting to find ways to do it. But my experience has been that it is that kind of pragmatic effectiveness, impact, that is really remarkable about Trinity, and that we can tie that back to different ratings. Just this year, we got called out in a very positive way in the Princeton Review, colleges that pay you back. We keep getting noted for the ways that students, alumni, use what they get at Trinity.
I have one here that's come up in our chat window from Richard Summers. Thank you, Richard. So he says, regarding things that keep him up at night, even more critical to the American democracy than reforming our current political system is reforming the core practices and attitudes of our fourth branch of government, the press. Richard says he'd love to see something like the Edward R. Murrow Center for Objective Journalism, or some sort of new force opposing the increasingly wild, wild west of fake news and corporate control of the media. So Richard's asking, is there a gift that Trinity can make to the future of our culture and society that can help to turn this tide, holding professionals accountable for their work, accountable for investigating and interviewing and reporting, similar to the way a physician might be held accountable to a Hippocratic oath? I'm not familiar with how we might be tackling those issues. I wonder, Richard would like to know if you have some thoughts.
Yeah. So I think there are two things that are really important. I talked earlier about how we're looking at accreditation, and we have a plan called Starting Strong. It's our QEP that's looking at first-year students. One of the things we did 10 years ago, our QEP was on digital literacy. And digital literacy was a project that has been imitated by many places, looking at how Trinity really has distinguished itself in doing this. And our librarians were really key players in developing this to help students think about, you access information on the internet. Do you know how to evaluate accuracy? Do you have some guidelines to think about what's going on? So we have, for 10 years, already been doing a really remarkable project in terms of trying to promote digital literacy. As a result of the kind of conversations we've seen taking place this last year, we're looking at, are there ways that we can increase the number of courses that are organized around digital literacy to try and help students become very intentional and self-aware in thinking about assessing the quality of the information that they're consuming. But the other thing I talked about in our new curriculum, we have a first-year experience. It's a 6-hour seminar. There's a proposal right now to have one of the topics that would be used next year to bring a faculty team together and have students focus on as a topic, very much looking at information, quality of information. How do you assess it? How do you understand the impact that it has on others? So I think those are very much things that are in my mind. I love the idea of thinking about this as a gift that Trinity could give back to the community. I'm also looking for someone to be willing to make a gift of an Edward R. Murrow Center to Trinity. We have a great communications program where we study these, and with more support, there is an immense amount of things that we could do to advance those kinds of topics.
It's certainly a timely issue with the polarized viewpoints we have. It's sometimes a little hard to weed out what's editorial as opposed to
correct,
factual.
Absolutely.
Well, Richard, that's a challenge to you for Dr. Anderson, and maybe we can work on that some other time. We have an anonymous viewer who says that we've shown today that the percentage of alumni who donate is very low. Is there a sense of that we should interpret this as an indication of dissatisfaction among the alumni? And I guess how would you recommend we address that in general?
So I think a couple of things. One, we went out and did a survey from alumni this last year, trying to understand, is there something that people are dissatisfied with that has caused that? We ended up coming back with one of those very first indicators that 95% of people said Trinity was a good experience. When we dig down into it and talk with specific groups, we know, and this is where Trinity is similar to other universities, all students from all universities who graduated during a depression or recession were dissatisfied with the opportunities publicly for them in terms of making transition to the job market, and wished that the university, in preparation for depression or recession, had done something different to make it easier for them. I think it's really logical as we look at that. So I think we can identify by cohorts students who wished that we had done something different for them.
Right.
I think often we will discover also that we have alumni who are generous But right now, the thing that we know as you frame that number, it's interesting. Across the country, giving to universities has declined every year for the last 22 years. And so I think the thing is that Trinity, there are many other universities that are about at the same giving level we are.
Right.
Saying, oh, we just want to be like everybody else is not good enough. So looking at what are the specific things that we can be doing to become more like those peers that have the prestige that our alumni want us to have. I think that that'd be one of the things that I'd say is that alumni, I think one of the things they may be dissatisfied with is one of the kind of questions that was asked earlier, how broadly do people recognize my university? It's an interesting kind of chicken and circle egg in that the places that are highly ranked are because our alumni have been giving,
right,
giving more resources and to accomplish things. And that really helps make a difference.
Yeah, if I can just chime in, even, the whopping 7 days into the new job here. I think that one of the things that's impressed me most about our current efforts are, and as a fellow alumnus, I can attest to the fact that the culture of giving and the culture of understanding not just what our finances contribute to this cause, but our time and our energy. If we're not out there all beating the drum and being good ambassadors, the image problem is partially ours to bear. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can't do it all from here. Certainly, there's the network of Trinity alumni is far more extensive than any legwork you or I or any of our team could do to go out and spread that message. We have, and I think that we're slowly starting to change that culture, and I think it will take time. But it's nice to see. I don't have a name here, but our anonymous viewer makes a good point. It'd be nice if we can backtrack, if we can kind of work backwards to my era, this graduate's era. It certainly would do some nice work to help us catch up to that.
I think part of the trying to tell the story about a strategic plan, we will often think about what it was like when I was there, and the goal is to have people think about what is it like if you were here now. Because we may have corrected some of the things that were wrong in the past, and we really do want support in that anything that we invest in making the current name of Trinity stronger increases the value of a Trinity degree held by anyone from the past. Right. And so it's very much a self-serving, increasing the value of those degrees.
And it is a different place than it was 25 years ago when I was here. There's no doubt about it. It looks like that's about it on the questions. Before we wrap up, I would like to remind all of you that our next webinar will be on April 25th at 12 o'clock noon Central Standard Time. This topic will be how to create a standout LinkedIn profile that gets results. So we'll do a little bit of help getting that word out as to how talented we all are. The discussion will be led by Michelle Hardy, class of 1999. She's a director from the MBA Employer and Alumni Engagement of McCombs School of Business at the University of Texas at Austin. I happen to know Michelle, so I'm looking forward to that. And I want to thank you for your time today, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. You're welcome to invite me to link with you on LinkedIn. And please put your Trinity degrees proudly out there.
Thank you so much for being here today.